Hey, welcome back to Getting Down with Doug. I've just realized I don't have everything I need with me. Do I dare freestyle this without my notes? I don't know. I really look up to people like Kevin Boyle, who I'm sure he does make notes because he's so good when he freestyles his talk, and just judging on what he said previously about his setup and how you should teach a class and you should be prepared. I can only imagine that he is, and he doesn't ramble much in his podcast, so I think he probably does have notes. Does that mean I should have my notes? Probably. I'm not too sure where they are right now. So, look, we're going to get going, and I see if I can do it all from my brain, but I might have to shoot off and get the notes at some stage. So just be pre-warned, that could be a thing that happens. All right. As you may have noticed, if you're watching this on YouTube, is that now we're now doing a video and an audio version of this podcast each time. I don't want to commit to each time. We're going to do it this time at least. So if you're on the podcast and you're listening on iTunes or on Spotify or SoundCloud or CastBox, wherever you're getting this, then just be aware there is a video. So if you want to see me talking while I talk, then, fill your boots. I don't know why you would. You might do. I know that's how I consume my podcasts when I watch Joe Rogan, which I do quite a lot while I'm cooking. I don't know. It's nice to see people. I feel like I'm in the room. And I've got to be honest, as a yoga teacher, I feel like it is quite a lonely existence. It's weird. You're forever going out and making connections with people, but I don't know, I feel like you're helping them connect, but you are facilitating that. A little bit like when you teach yoga, you don't necessarily get to practice yoga, and that's a mistake I made for a long time. I thought I was going to get to practice yoga loads while I was teaching. That shouldn't be your focus. Your focus should be on helping them facilitate their practice, not you getting your extra core work or your extra hamstring stretch in. So you should have your own practice too. Again, as always, I digress. Maybe this is why I need my notes. So what are we doing today? Well, we are doing another solo episode where we are covering 5 reasons why you shouldn't do yoga. And more importantly, why those are all wrong. That's right, I said it. They're wrong. These 5 reasons are the most popular reasons I find people give me for why they don't want to do yoga or why they're not doing yoga. I put out a poll earlier and a lot of these same things came up. There was a bit of an extra one, which I might talk about at the end if I can remember. Again, don't have my notes. And there's one excuse or reason. I don't want to say excuse because it sheds a negative light on it. And I think reason is probably more accurate because people truly believe these things. It's not like they're trying to get out of it. It's that they probably believe these things and no one's educated them. So if you are one of those people, thanks so much for listening and taking time out to find out if those excuses, I want to stop saying excuses, if those reasons apply to you. And if you are more likely a yoga teacher or practitioner that is trying to spread the good word of yoga like I am, and you have these friends that come up with these reasons, then this is that straight rebuttal and you go, bam, what about this? You say this, but this is this. And hopefully we can get more people to yoga because it's not a zero-sum game, More people doing yoga, it doesn't mean there's less yoga for me. It's a creative endeavor. It makes more. It's exact opposite of a zero-sum game. The more people that do it, the more is created. And it's a beautiful thing like that. And I think the more people that are doing it, the better society would be. That's my personal opinion. It's brought a lot of joy to my life. So I feel like I would be a fraud and I would be very selfish to have the secret to what's making me feel happier and not giving it to anyone else. That feels quite sinister, quite nefarious, which is one of my favorite words. It just seems wrong, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to try get as many people doing yoga as I can in my small sphere of influence. And if this can help you do the same, then so be it. I think that's where goodness happens, when we can do something good for ourselves and it has this trickle effect for being good for other people. I will, before I get onto these 5 reasons, also say that I think if you're trying to get people to come to yoga and you're also going to rebuttal their reasons for not coming, do it from a place from love. That's what I'm doing this. I'm trying to get people to do it because I think they'll enjoy it. I think there'll be something good from it. So try not to shoot them down and be like, you're always making excuses and stuff like that. So just help them out. Try let them see the truth themselves. Try guide them there gently. Don't tug. just gently bring them in to this idea that yoga can be good for them, and to at least try it out. All right. So, and my last thing was that the best example you can set, or rather the best, the best testimonial is example. So if you're leading a life in which people look and go, I really like what you're doing, then that does far more than you saying something's good. Talk is cheap, as Jordan Peterson and Naval point out. It's a very cheap currency, being able to say words. Doing things costs a lot more energy and a lot more time. Therefore, less people do it. But I think it's more impactful when you do it. People can look at you and go, hey, he's doing something that I really like, I really respect. Let's hopefully do the same. So that's my little preach moment there. Let's get into it. I put that way too close. It's about like the 10th time I've knocked that. Hold on. Let's just move that out the way. Actually, you spent a bit of time setting this little scene up. I hope you like it. Comment below. Tell me what you think and what you'd like to add or take away. All right. So without further ado, here we go. The 5 reasons people don't do yoga and why they are all wrong. Reason number 1. I'm not flexible enough. I'm too stiff. Now, to me, this is an unusual reason. 1, because it makes no sense. And 2, because it's so common. Like, people just say it all the time. And I'm surprised not more of them have had this epiphany that that's just incorrect. So saying you're too inflexible to come to yoga is like saying you're too dirty to shower. You understand that, right? You can see the comparison here. The very byproduct of doing yoga is that you get more flexible. So saying you're not flexible, that's why you shouldn't come, is a weird logic to put together. Now, I'm not saying that the only reason you would do yoga is to get more flexible. It's just one of the byproducts. Right? For me, there's a whole other thing going on of why we should do yoga. But flexibility is one of the byproducts. So if you're saying you're not flexible and that's why you don't want to come, then you're missing out on one of the cures to the very thing that you have self-professed not to have. So you've aimed and pointed out the problem, also pointed out the solution and gone, I'm not going to do the solution because I have the problem. Weird. Don't do that. Think about it. You want to get a little more flexible? Come do yoga. All right. Along the way, you may find a whole host of other things. The great thing about yoga is the barrier for entry is so low. Literally, do you have a body? Yes. Can you breathe? Yes. You are in, my friend. You are ready to do yoga. That's as easy as it is. Patabi Joyce has a great quote, which is that sick people can do yoga. People with no strength can do yoga. Old people can do yoga. But lazy people can't do yoga. I think the exact quote is lazy people can't do Ashtanga yoga, but I think it applies to all yoga. Meaning you are the only barrier to entry. If you can't be asked to do it, then there's nothing we can do. But for any physical ailment, or strength was one that came up that I thought was a real good one. I'm not strong enough to do yoga. Again, these things come. These are byproducts of what you do. So just show up on your mat, do your thing, and you'll be surprised how far you can get in those ranges of motion, as well as your strength. Those things will come along with a whole host of other great things. And I don't want to preach about how good yoga is, but there are just such a body of science that is now coming to back up yoga, as well as testimonials, that if you come for the flexibility of strength, that's amazing, but you'll find there's so many other reasons to stay. So that one, we're just going to discount straight away. That is not a good reason not to do yoga, that you're not flexible enough. That's a great reason to do yoga, in fact. So whammy, flip that on its head. The second point leads quite nicely from that first one, and that is, the other reason is, well, let's just do it in order. The second reason people quote that I'm going to list here is that people are going to look at them in class and they're a bit shy. Now, I kind of get this, but this stems from the same problem as the not being flexible thing, and I think it is part of the same problem, which is that sometimes when we're new to yoga, we can see it the wrong way around. So let me explain. We see it as a presentation, that we go to that class to present how good we are, how flexible we are, how strong we are. And look, don't get me wrong, you can get caught up in that. Yeah, I still get caught up in that, which makes me do things that are probably against my best interests. That's not what yoga's for. Yoga's not about presentation. It's about introspection. You're trying to look in, not trying to show yourself out. And when it comes to Instagram, of course, this is the exact opposite. We're forever trying to present to show people how good we are or what we're doing or how great our life is. And instead, we should be taking time to sit down, take a little time out from our day and go, what is going on? Is everything okay? Am I feeling okay? And I feel like the two things are not compatible. You can't do the one while doing the other. So we should be spending more time on the introspection. And that is what yoga is about. So when you go to a class, know that the majority of people that are there should be there for the right reasons. Let's assume they are. All right? Let's assume they are there for the introspection, which means what you're doing on your mat is of little concern to them. And I say this in all my classes. You should confine your brain to the four corners of that mat. That's what you should be worried about. What's happening there? Not what's happening on your neighbor's mat, on this side, that side. You should be trying your best to just focus on what's happening on that mat. And if you can, even better, in that body and just in that body. Inside your skin, what is going on? So keeping that in mind, a lot of yogis are going to be in that class thinking about those things. Other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the poses are hard. Yoga is tough, man. Like to do it in an engaging way means that you've got 101 things to think about in every pose, in every position, which means I don't have time to be looking at whether you're doing it correctly. That's not my concern. That's the teacher's going to come help you out if you're not doing it right or if you're not doing it safely. We all make different shapes with our body. All right. It's about it's about intention, not presentation. All right. So are you trying to move your body in these shapes? Is that causing a stress, or is it causing a stretch? So don't let that be a reason. Go to your class. Know that everyone's there so focused on what they're doing. And don't forget, a lot of what you do in yoga, your head's down, kind of doing downward dog, which always makes me laugh because people like to go at the back of the class when they're new and they go like, I'll just hang out here, not realizing in downward dog, that's where everyone's face is going straight away. And you spend a lot of time upside down, so you're going to be looking towards the back. I've also got a nasty thing sometimes I do. As kind of like in a jovial way, I will put a mat at the front and the back of the class so you just don't know where I'm going to be. I think that's good because people can get shy. And again, I think you should be confident with your practice, not because you're good or you think you're good, but just because you're there to do your thing and you're confident enough to do your thing regardless of what other people think. And I think that is such a good virtue to have in your life in general, to be able to go through things with that confidence to go, this is what I need to do to better my life, and how you think or feel about me doing it is irrelevant to me. I'm going to do it anyway because this is what I want to do. And there's a real strength in that. I think the more you do it, the better practice you get at it. So if that's something you're struggling with, challenge yourself. Go to that class, be brave, and enjoy the class, knowing that what's going on should just be about what's happening with you on that mat in your own body. Now, if you still feel really strongly about that, and I totally understand there may be some people out there that say, I just don't want to be in public doing yoga. Hey, power to you. The great news is there is a plethora of shows and videos out on YouTube. Absolutely free. You just go into YouTube, type in yoga, and no doubt there's millions of videos on there. Now, it may be quite hard to navigate your way through all those videos. As Naval Ravikant points out, no, it's actually, I think it's Yuval Harari. Yes, it's Yuval Harari. He says how in the past, having access to information was like a superpower. Only certain people could read, for instance. And if you could read, it gave you such an upper hand over everyone that couldn't. You had access to all this knowledge. Now, we have loads of knowledge, too much knowledge. And now the trick isn't finding knowledge to see and to look at and to understand. The real trick is to know what knowledge, what information to ignore. So I'm going to do a little work for you here. These are the people I suggest you follow. So by all means, find new ones, but these are the ones that I find have quality videos on that you can follow along with at home, and it's a decent yoga explanation. Sound quality is good. Video quality is pretty good. Patrick Beach, firstly, who I have the utmost respect for. He's just an incredible teacher. He's got a real eloquent way of teaching, and mixing every asana with some sort of metaphor, which is beautifully it's beautifully done. And he's a great one to go. So Patrick Beach, all right. Second, I would say someone like Tim Senese, who his yoga isn't as tough in terms of the physical demand, but it's very well thought out. It's very nicely shot, and audio quality is good too. I'd also say someone like Kino McGregor, who's Ashtangi, and she's also very famous in her own right. Jason Crandall, you know what? I'll tell you the truth. I've never practiced with the guy or online. I kind of was excited to do it this week, but just based on hearing his podcast with his wife on Yoga Land, I believe it's called, that guy's so knowledgeable. I feel like anything he can tell me in that hour would be amazing. Another place to check things out, Lululemon have their own YouTube channel now. I did one with Baron Baptiste yesterday, who's also a legend in the sport, if we can call it that. But I was also say, and haters gonna hate, check out my videos, The Down with Doug. I've got tons on there. I make new videos every Tuesday. And if you want me to make you a video, then just comment below or send me a DM or an email at yoga@thedownwithdoug.com, and I will make one for you. I enjoy the process of doing it, so you're not putting me out. And I don't want to make just generic videos. I want to make them for people. And if you've got a demand for a certain type of yoga or flow or tutorial, the chances are someone else does too. So help me, help you, help everyone. Okay? But yeah, check out my videos. I've got quite a few on there already. And that way you can practice from the safety and security of your own home, no one else watching, and you can be a little more free. I totally get that. So again, if you're worried about people looking at you, I've just given you two solutions to that problem. Either go there knowing that people aren't necessarily going to be staring at you, or if you still feel strongly about it, you can practice at home with your computer, with your iPhone, and you can have a great practice too. So we've taken out those pretty well. We've taken those out at the knees. All right. Third reason, and now I'm starting to think I might need my notes. Third reason is I think I'm no good at yoga. Now, this is an interesting one. This is a very interesting one. For the simple reason is, what is the metric that we are using to judge yoga? And that's kind of an open-ended question. What is it that we're using as the base level for being good at yoga? For me, this is impossible to tell from the outside. Again, going back to reason one, it's about introspection, not presentation. So there may be someone at yoga that can do full splits. Now you might look at them and go, they are so good at yoga. They've nailed yoga. They won yoga. They finished yoga. They finished the curriculum. That's not the case. There may be a plethora, again, of ideas of reasons why they can do the splits. Maybe they were gymnasts. Maybe they hyper flexible, which is not necessarily a good thing for the body. There's a whole host of reasons. Maybe the guy next to you can hardly touch his toes. Does that mean he's not good at yoga? No. Maybe he's got fused discs in his back. Maybe he just doesn't want to touch his toes today. You can't tell by looking at anyone if they were good at yoga or not. For me, being good at yoga is about how mindful can you be throughout the practice? How much attention can you pay to every movement, to every breath in that hour, hour and a half, 20 minutes, whatever it's going to be? And that's impossible to quantify while watching someone. You just can't do it. Yoga is about mindful movement. Only you are going to know how well you are doing it. Again, I say this thing. If you have a body and you can breathe, you can do yoga. It's accessible to you. You can do very good yoga. But the metric shouldn't be, I'm not that flexible. Flexibility is something. And like we spoke about it in reason one, it can be a byproduct of yoga. But being more flexible doesn't mean you've done more yoga. Being more flexible doesn't mean you've done more yoga, therefore you're a better person. Doing a handstand doesn't mean you're a yoga master. It means you can do a handstand. It's important that we start seeing these things for what they are. This is what's weird about Instagram in terms of what we put out there as teachers. And I'm not going to say teachers in general. I'm going to say me. It's interesting what I put out there. I put out my strongest poses as best I can most of the time. Because even though I'm aware as I'm saying this, that's not a great metric for whether I'm a good teacher. That doesn't tell you much about me, my teaching ability. but I know that that currency holds some value. So in a very big way, I'm adding to the problem here. To know if I'm a good teacher, you need to come to my class, or I need to present better things to you through my social media accounts. It's just a bit lazy for us, isn't it? It's much easier for me to put a photo of me doing a handstand and go, hey, I can do this. Do you want to come up by? I could probably teach you to do it, but maybe I couldn't. You know, I've worked with plenty of gymnast coaches that were absolutely horrendous coaches. I've worked with some really good ones. Shout out to Mike Steele at Woken Gymnastics. The guy's like 70 odd. He can't do any of the things. I mean, he's a very strong person in general, but he can't do a lot of things he's teaching you. He doesn't need to be able to do them to teach you well. And you need to remember that when you're looking for a good teacher, don't be fooled by that currency of how good their photos are. That's not necessarily the best metric for how good of a teacher that person is. I'm straying a little bit from the reason here, which is I'm no good at yoga. The point being, you are perfect for yoga. As you are right now, you don't need to do anything else to be good at yoga. Again, it comes back to this thing about intention over presentation. What are your intentions while you're doing the yoga? Can you stay engaged with your mind? Can you really think through all the nuances of the pose while you're in them? That's being good at yoga. And just showing up is a big part of being good at yoga. Again, Patabi Joyce, great quote. Yoga is 99% practice, 1% theory. You've got to show up. You've got to be on your mat. All right? And that's why I'm doing this series, to try to get more of you onto your mat to start with. Because once you start, that's always the hard thing. It's after that things get easier. You know, once you get that routine going, you are good to go. Reason number 4. Now I really am struggling to remember what the 4th reason was. Now, this is where I need my notes. Now, where did I put my phone? Or am I just going to have to awkwardly stare at you while I think about it? Let's go reason number 5 while I wait. Yeah, well, let's say number 4, I'm just going to move it up. And then if it comes to me, it comes to me. If not, I'm going to go get my phone. So you'll just have to entertain yourself for those few seconds that I go get it. You'll appreciate the fact I don't have my phone on me when I do these things, because part of yoga is being mindful, and it's committing to whatever it is you're doing. Invest in it. Do it. I mean, that includes reading a book, talking to a friend, or doing a podcast. I don't want to be sidetracked. Kevin Boyle on his podcast, The Yoga Life, was describing how you shouldn't check your phone while people are in Shavasana. And it blew my mind, because I thought, who's doing that? And then I thought about it. I was like, I bet there's loads of teachers that check their phone while people are in Shavasana. Like, that's mental. You want to be engaged. That's one of the beauties of yoga, is that you get to spend quality time, which is an amazing segue to reason number 4. I don't have time. And I get it. Time is a limited resource, and we've all got to make the most of it. And we've got busy lives all the time. A couple of things about this, though. I would say that your time in general, just in a practical sense, I've actually got more than a couple of things to say. I've just thought of another one. For one, you've always got time. All right. I bet there's some YouTube video you're watching, maybe like this one, that you could be doing the yoga. Yoga doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 20 minutes. It can be 10 minutes. It can be 5 minutes meditation. You can do that instead of watching these things. If you're watching any TV, I would also say that is also a waste of time. It's nice, but you could be doing better things for your life. So I don't always buy that I don't have time. I think more correctly, what you should be saying is, I don't want to make time, because that's what it's going to take. If you don't have time, you can always wake up a little bit earlier. That's what I've been doing recently to make more hours in the day. Just wake up earlier. Again, you'd be amazed how quickly your body gets used to these things. It always seems like a bigger task than it starts out being. John Peterson has a great thing in 12 Rules for Life, which is that you want to give yourself realistic goals. So again, with the yoga, what can put us off is we think, I don't have the time to do an hour of yoga a day. Yeah, you might not. But do you have time to do 5 minutes? 2 minutes? 1 minute? Let's even start with 1 minute. You'll find that there's an amount of expense that takes you just to set up to do the yoga. So if you're going to do 1 minute or 10 minutes, there's an economy of scale that gets actually cheaper to do 10 minutes than 1 minute. If you're going to put out your mat, you may as well do 10 minutes. And you'll quite often find that if you're going to commit to do that 1 minute a day, that you'll start to enjoy it. It's that first hurdle that's hard to get through. So just give yourself an allocated amount of time. and allocated times a week. So let's say maybe it's 3 times a week you're going to get to a class, or like you described, you're going to practice at home. You're going to do one of the videos at home. Just give yourself a goal that's realistic, that you can commit to, that you feel comfortable and confident. You're like, okay, once a week, I can definitely do 10 minutes. Then do that. Let that be your start. You'll probably find that you'll want to do more, but even if that's it, that's a great start. That's a great commitment to yourself. So you could make the time, and don't always think about yoga as hour time slots. It doesn't have to be an hour. It's not a magic number. Like, if you do it for 59 minutes, it's not like, so close. I almost reached nirvana, but then I did 1 minute less. Then into practical. Now, this one's maybe a little bit, I don't know, maybe this one's a bit naughty, but yoga is proven to help people live longer lives. Also reduce the onset of arthritis and dementia and all sorts of things like that, which means actually by doing a little bit of yoga every day, you're buying yourself more time. So when you say you don't have time now, maybe, but you're buying yourself far more time in the future. Do this for future you, all right? Future you will appreciate this because you'll have more time on this earth that's usable because your body is in great working order, because you've looked after it, as well as your mind. That's the big one, right? Like, you can change literally the neuroplasticity of your mind by doing a little mindful movement or meditation. So it does buy you more time. And then lastly, I want you to think about time in terms of quality, not quantity necessarily. When we practice yoga, we're far more mindful. We're trying to be in the present moment. So if we think about time as, instead of minutes on a clock, as amount of information taken in, then you can see the amount of info you can take in when you're present, when you're thinking about what you're doing, when you're really focused on the task at hand. You're taking in more information, which means at the end of that hour, you've been more engaged than if you're mindlessly watching TV or doing something else. So in terms of time, you've actually used time better. You've got more out of that time. There's been a better utility of time during that time. All right. Hopefully that made some sort of sense. But now that I hear it out loud, the jury is still out. Now, I still can't think of the bloody last one. It's clearly not that yoga will help you remember stuff. So give me 1 second. I'm going to find out. Hold on. Just talk amongst yourselves, yeah? Wait there. Where's my phone? All right. Hold on. Hold the phone. Okay. Apologies. All right. We're back. And let's see. I'm going to kick myself too, aren't I? Oh, yes. That was it. It's because it wasn't reason number 4. It was reason number 3 I left out. So we're just going to move them around. Reason number 5, yoga is too slow and too boring. Now, I'm going to address this in 2 parts. Now, I would say other than I'm too inflexible to do yoga, this is probably the most common one I come up against. So what do we say to people that say yoga is too slow or too boring? Well, firstly, yoga is an umbrella term. What that means is it refers to a lot of things, just like food is an umbrella term. Now, if you said to me, don't like food's spicy, you're going like, huh? What? You mean food's spicy? You're like, food's spicy. I had this curry once and it was super spicy. So food, I'm just like, can't deal with food. Super spicy. That's mental, right? That is absolutely mental. Some food is spicy. Totally. Does that mean all food is spicy? No. Now, I don't know if this is actually people having gone to class and it was slow, or that just their perception of yoga is that it is slow. I don't know which one it is. Either way, if you are one of those people, you need to go to other classes. So, yin yoga will be slow. Restorative yoga will be slow. Hatha yoga will be kind of slow. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it will be kind of slow. So those ones are slow. That's kind of what they say on the tin. All right. If you go to power flow, vinyasa flow, dynamic yoga, rocket yoga, Bikram yoga, I'm trying to think if there's any others that I can think of. Not right now. But if you go to those are not slow. If you go to them and they are slow, then by all means complain. But don't let that be your reason not to go. Find one of those types of yoga and go check it out. If you want a better description of what different types of yoga are, check out this video here. There's a nice link just there. Have a look. Those of you obviously listening to the podcast can't see that link, but it's on my YouTube, different types of yoga. And that gives you a little basis of what each type is. And that'll help you navigate your way a little bit better. If you have gone to a class and it was slow and it wasn't supposed to be slow, then look, I'm sorry. But don't take that as the only one. There's a great amount of yoga out there that is fast-paced, dynamic, that is kind of like a workout, but also gives you the spiritual essence. So it's up to you to find your type of class and your type of teacher, because they're out there. For sure, they're out there. So talk to friends. Again, you can check people out online, find what types you like. Check out that video. That'll also help you have that description of what types of yoga are around, and you can probably get an idea from that which types you want to do. Maybe you want to do the slow ones, but if you're one of these that are using this as a reason not to go to yoga, I don't buy it. That's not the only type of yoga. In fact, if you come to level 6 on a Saturday, 11:30 to my class, and you don't sweat and you think it's slow and it's boring, well, actually, we'll talk about the boring in a second. But if you think it's slow, it's free. I'll give it to you for free. You're also welcome to go to the rocket class at 1 p.m. If you think that one's slow, again, I'll pay for your class. Absolutely. If you're not sweating by the end of either of those classes, it's on me. All right? Good luck. Good luck in there. All right? So don't let that be an excuse. As for boring, I have to say, this is on you. This is totally on you. Being bored isn't a byproduct of yoga. Being bored is a byproduct of not paying attention. So in any position, you can totally switch off if you choose to. Warrior 1, Warrior 2. The balancing ones is a lot harder to switch off because you'll often fall out of the pose. But the ones where you're connected to the ground, you're welcome just to switch off your brain and be bored. But that's not because of yoga. That's because you aren't paying attention. You've got to pay attention. You've got to engage with the pose from the inside out. What are your hands doing? What are your feet doing? Is the navel coming in towards spine? Am I pelvically twisting one way or the other way? Where should my head be? Are my arms in the right place? All of these things are what you should be asking yourself in every position. This comes back to what we were saying about being good at yoga. That's what being engaged in yoga and is being good at yoga is, paying attention to all those things. So saying it's boring, I would also say you're probably going to the wrong class. Find a teacher that's engaging, that speaks to you. And I understand, I totally get it, that you can go to a class that isn't that well suited to your worldview. So maybe they're talking about a lot of yoga philosophy and you're like, I'm here mainly for the physical practice. Then find yourself more of an anatomical teacher. Well, I've never said those two words together. But find yourself one of those. Someone like Kevin Boyer is a great example in Dublin. It's very much how I teach too. I like to talk about the muscles, the anatomy, how things are working, and I talk in very pragmatical ways. You'll find other teachers will have a far more flowery description of things, and you've got to find which one works for you. Again, that's on you though. That's not about yoga being bad. So that is the 5 reasons why people don't do yoga, or why you don't do yoga, and why they are all wrong. Now, I would say the last one, which I can't argue with, is I don't want to. If you don't want to do yoga, hey, that is totally fine. You know, I have some people that come up to me and they almost apologize, like, I'm so sorry, I don't like yoga. It's no skin off my back. Like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You know, I would say with most things though, give it a try. Can this many people be wrong? Probably not. But this is your journey. You have to find the time when it's right for you. You have to find when yoga is going to work for you. I would say if you're not going to do yoga, at least do a little meditation. I feel like, again, the science is really, really caught up now, and it's only good things that are coming out from that. So give yourself that time, but at least try things out. But if you still feel strongly, then that's fine, and you shouldn't be getting any stick about it, and you shouldn't be giving your friends any stick about it if they just don't want to. But for sure, give it a try. I hope this has been helpful. This is another one of my solo podcasts. This is the first video we've done too, so comment below what you thought. Those of you who are on the podcast, always very much appreciate it if you can give me a 5-star review. That really helps me keep this going and get the podcast. Tell your friends about it. Share this to someone who you think it would be useful for. And lastly, of course, this is sponsored by no one. So I'm doing it out of love for this. But if you could also help me out with those 5 stars, that would be amazing. If you would like to come on one of my retreats to Sri Lanka, March 1st to 8th, or to Bali, June 1st to the 8th of June, then make sure you DM me or message me on Instagram. That's the same thing, isn't it? God damn it. Or email me at yoga@thedownwithdog.com and get your place booked in now. They're both going to be amazing things. We're doing a bit of yoga and boxing in Sri Lanka, along with surf lessons almost every day there. So that'll be lovely. We're doing it with D Fitz, a really good MMA fighter who trains at SGB. Whereas those of you who know your MMA, that's where Conor McGregor trains out of, all right? She is legit and she's very fun. So we're going to have a great week together there. All food's included, all transfers, everything's included once you get there, right? Long story short. In Bali, we're with Tom Bliss as well as Courtney Pruce. Make sure you come join us there. We'll be training at Wanderlust Gym once again and Bali Empire, as well as doing all the excursions. Again, all included with lovely food. So join me there. All right, that's enough of a plug for me. Hope you've enjoyed this. We will see you next time. And thanks once again for getting down with Doug.